In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how we took a brand's email revenue from 7% to just 51% in 45 days. And what if I told you that you could do the same without more ads? So most brands think that you need to spend on more ads to grow. What if I told you we helped one brand jump from 7% to 51% of total revenue coming from email in just 45 days without touching their ad budget? And in fact, I didn't put this here, but this brand specifically wasn't running ads at all. This was purely done using organic traffic that they already had coming to their site through organic socials. And so just for some proof here, before working with us, you can see a 7% total revenue from email. And then after just under 45 or about 45 days here, we got them to 51.33%. And so who is this video going to be for? If you are an e-commerce founder who wants to scale email revenue, you work or just left with an agency, and you aren't happy with your current email results, then pay close attention because these next few minutes can change your retention game. And so the backstory with this brand, before working with us, they'd already tried another agency, but the results were flat working with them. And so email made up only 7% of total sales. The list was going cold fast. They were frustrated, busy, and tired of guessing. Now, their biggest problem was that their pop-up was only converting 3% of visitors. They weren't sending campaigns consistently, and this led to their engagement drying up. Flows existed, but they barely worked. And so think of driving 10,000 people to your site with no salesperson waiting to talk to them. That was essentially their email setup. They had it, but it wasn't there. And so why email was failing, like a lot of founders, maybe yourself watching this video, you're wearing every single hat. So they could have sent a campaign, but they didn't know how to turn email into a profit engine. There was no clear plan, no personalization, and there was no real strategy to turn first-time buyers into repeat customers. So what they really needed was not another agency system, not more meetings or vanity metrics that these big bloated agencies cause. And they needed someone to understand their brand and tone, build a real strategy that converts, execute fast without having to handhold, and focus on dollars and not necessarily dashboard or vanity metrics. And so that's where we came in. The 45-day turnaround plan, this wasn't a plug and play. We built everything from the ground up. So a new pop-up strategy, campaign structure, segmentation system, and we built 6 core automated email flows, all tied to how their customers actually think and shop. And so here are the 5 fixes that changed everything for them. We rebuilt their pop-up to fit their audience and brand voice, installed a consistent 3 to 4 per week campaign cadence, rebuilt every automation from scratch, added new segments to protect deliverability and maximize the reach of our campaigns, kept daily communication so nothing fell through the cracks. So their pop-up strategy on how we took them from 3% to 11% in just 7 days, which was very good here. Before, their form had what every single brand does. They were sending a generic get 10% off. Now, the issue necessarily wasn't the discount, but it was the framing here. Their customers are sick and tired of seeing the same pop-up that every other brand has. Get this discount, get this discount. And so we reworked it to fit their friendly, uplifting kind of brand vibe. So all we did was a simple copy reframe. We kept the 10% off, but instead of saying get 10% off, we used a mystery discount approach. So it was the same offer, but again, just different psychology. Now, visitors had to sign up to find out what their discount was, and we also added a tiny micro commitment step. Do you want a mystery discount? Yes, or no thanks, I'll pay full price. Now that small FOMO trigger boosted conversions almost immediately. And so here's how we technically engineered the 11% pop-up conversion rate. So we set a 6-second time delay and we let visitors settle in before showing the pop-up. You don't want to hit them right away because that can get in the way of them shopping, but we've noticed that anywhere from 6 to 12% is that key sweet spot for signups. And then micro commitment first step. So we asked people a simple yes or no question before they filled out the email field. And then we used a multi-step form for this, obviously. Step 1, email, and step 2, SMS. And then the success page strategy. So all we did was tell users to check their inbox for their code. And that last part trained people to open future emails. And the result, 3% to 11% opt-in rate in just 1 week. So here's their campaign strategy that we used to turn cold subscribers into buyers. This brand specifically hadn't sent a single email in over 60 days. And if you know anything about campaigns, 60 days is quite a bit of time to not be sending to your list, assuming we follow the very bare minimum of 2 emails per week. And so we started studying competitors. We identified what worked in their kind of niche and rewriting everything in the brand's natural tone. And this was very key here. So our campaign cadence, we sent 3 to 4 campaigns each week focused on education and engagement. And each email had one job to get a click, reply, or a purchase. And this rhythm turned the silence from the list into steady revenue that we could almost predict just by sending our campaigns out. And so what we did for testing and optimization, so we A/B tested 2 styles, designed emails versus plain text from the founder, and plain text crushed it every single time. Why? It felt personal, it came from a person, not a brand, and it built trust almost instantly after months of no contact. So we found that blending both styles here was the best kind of case scenario. So we didn't ditch graphics completely. Instead, we mixed storytelling and plain text emails inside of our clean campaign cadence. So that blend alone added another 20% more revenue from campaigns without, again, any extra traffic or ad spend that we had to put behind it. And so these types of campaigns that worked best were product launches. So we built the hype and urgency with teasers and reminders. Product highlights, broke down ingredients and the product benefits simply. You don't need to overcomplicate this. Pick one ingredient or one product benefit and go deep into that benefit. Customer stories. So we shared UGC and success photos that built trust. So transformation. This was specifically a skincare brand. So a lot of success stories here helped out a ton. And then educational deep dive. So pure value inside of these emails and no pitch. And this is what kept the list warm, loyal, and ready to buy once they were ready. So now our segmentation strategy, protecting deliverability. So after 2 months of silence, we knew we couldn't blast the entire list. So instead, we re-engaged a smarter way. We sent to 30-day engaged, 45-day engaged, and 60-day engaged, and we also had sent to past purchasers. And the reason why we did this is because we knew that these would be our hottest people to open our email and in turn boost the opens and show in the eyes of Google, hey, we're not just spamming people and people actually want to open our emails. So this rebuilt engagement and restored inbox placement pretty easily. And so why it worked, protected deliverability from huge sends and spikes, it boosted open rates fast, and it rebuilt trust with the people who already cared. Pro tip, warm your list slowly in tiers, so don't go from 0 to 100 overnight. So we first started out with 30-day engaged with this brand here, and then we slowly opened it to 45-day and then 60-day engaged as we saw an increase in open. Now, here's the flow strategy that captured 30% of our revenue completely on autopilot. We didn't need 20 automations, and we focused on 6 that were actually moving revenue. And so this was the welcome flow, site abandonment, browse abandonment, cart abandonment, checkout abandonment, and post-purchase. And so how we actually wrote these flow emails was that every word was engineered for intent. We used copy that sounded like the customer, not coming from some sort of marketer, designs that were easy to scan and not scroll past, and dynamic fields for names, products, and certain behaviors that customers were doing. Every email had one goal: to move the customer closer to the checkout. Now, here's the content framework behind every single flow. So in the majority of our flows, we needed to engineer exactly where customers might be in this journey. And so we wanted to share social proof, things like reviews and UGC for trust, objection handling. So we addressed hesitations before they stopped the sale. Frequently asked questions, so we answered real customer questions, and then we added some micro incentives at the end of some flows, and this just was a light nudge to act without crushing our margins. And so by mapping emotional and logical objections, we turned these emails into quiet revenue drivers. And again, this was completely on autopilot. And so the bonus that I want to share with you guys here is the thank you flow. So most brands stop at the thanks for your order. But however, we built a plain text that was a thank you message from the founder instead. And what this was short, personal, and real. Of course, it was automated, but it felt authentic. And that one email sparked replies, reviews, and even scored second purchases, believe it or not. And so why it worked, it built a real connection. It made customers feel seen and not sold to. They felt like they were a part of the brand and the journey that the brand was going in. And so it boosted retention and repeat buys and result more revenue without having to lift a finger. And so the overall results from here, in just 45 days, email revenue jumped from 7% to 51% of total store revenue. Pop-up conversion grew from 3% to 11%, and campaigns added 20% more revenue Flows drove 30% of revenue automatically, and this was all without increasing ad spend or traffic. And so what this means for you is that you don't need new ads, you don't need a bigger list, you need a system that makes the most out of the audience you already have, and that's how you can scale efficiently and profitably. So if your store makes at least $50K per month and you're ready to see results like this, click the link below to book a free audit call, and we'll break down your current setup, show you where you're leaving money on the table, and build your custom roadmap to 35% plus revenue coming from email. So final note, most brands think email is just another channel, but when you do it right, it becomes the engine that powers everything else. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment on any other videos that you want to see regarding e-commerce email marketing.